So a very warm welcome to this one-off teaching. So I'm sorry, as I said earlier to a few people, in the last couple of weeks, I said, oh, we'll be having 2 weekends on Aspiration Bodhicitta, and I'd forgotten my own program. So it's just today. And so a very warm welcome to this. It's a great pleasure to teach on this topic. And so let's start with an excellent motivation, and especially for this, which is all about mind and motivation, bodhisattva motivation. So let's turn our hearts, our thoughts in love and in care to all our fellow beings, and especially those connected with us because of the power of karma and because of this long journey we've got ahead. Well, they'll be back and they'll be back, and we're going to help them all. Thank you. Sonje chodang soje chonom la jancho pado dane chapsunje dagi jinso jipe sonam je drola penchera sonje dropara sho semchen tamche dewa dang dewe jodang dempara choche dongal dang dongal je jodang tralwara choche dongal me pe dewa dang pa dang men tralwara choche nyeren chadan ne tang tralwe tan yom chempola ne para chora che de anta shame shamawati shameta shachum om kure marazite karota kayore tejovati Olo yane bishuda nemale malapa naye kukure kaka krase krasana o muki paramuki a muki shametane sawa graha bandhanane nekreta sawa prawadina vimukta mara bhaja satapita buddha mutra anukatita sava mare butsarita parishude Brigat Santu Sava Mara Kama. Alan Sawe Lama Rinpoche, Dagye Jiwara Bende Denshola, Kadren Chempo Gone Jesonte, Koson Toje Madrup, Saldo Sol. So where to start? I'd like to start unusually this morning. And although we've got a lot to cover, I'd like to start sharing, I suppose it's a poem, but it will be a song. As some of you know, I work with Katie, who's with us today, and sometimes we make Dharma songs together. So this song is relevant for today, and I came across the words and I thought I'd share them with you. So I'm going to scroll and see if I can find it. Welcome, my friend. Good to see you here. On this journey that will transcend all fear. May you courage find and be ever strong. For the task is hard and the journey may be long. This life you have, rare as daytime stars, where all is ready to take you far, is like a jewel someone blind might find, a ripened fruit of your past lives, so kind. The path is noble and the path is deep. Through being human, we shall oft times weep. To be authentic and to face your mind takes guts and skill as karma's knots unwind. Just as with joy you'll endure the blade that cuts out poison, so your life be saved. So, though not easy, trust the healing knives that cut out ego, so goodness lives and truly thrives. To love each being is the greatest wealth. To live in service is the sanest health. To know all that as interdependent dream is to be at ease as you swim in the stream. But more than this, may we each find mind's stainless essence beyond all time. Non-dual goodness, brilliant like a sun, in which we are at peace, all as one. So that's one day. So today, Aspiration Bodhicitta. Now it's a teaching, and we don't have much time, and there are lots of teachings and very, very relevant hands-on teaching. We're not lost in endless kind of theories or fancy words, very practical teachings, and it's very structured. So my job, and I don't want to lose my job, is to give you the structure, all the things I need to say, and that eventually you need to know about Aspiration Bodhicitta. Excuse me, I've got a frog in the throat. But with Dharma, so often we get teachings. So somebody usually sits up on a cushion somewhere, often they're fancily dressed and they look impressive. And then we sit down, we take teachings, and there's a sort of a transfer of data, information, which I have to give you. But sometimes one can forget what it's all about. And there it's something so wonderful that I don't know. I want to say something about it. I don't even know if I can find any words. It's about a huge change in everything you are, a huge change that will affect all of your futures. And it's an awakening. And I don't know how you wake up in the morning. Some people wake up pretty easy. Some people, it's a sort of a slow up and down process where you yawn and you sink back in, and you open your eyes, and you wake up a little bit and you sink back in. Awakening to bodhicitta can be like that too. So if we could zoom out with Buddha eyes and see you and me over the last 100 lives, and what we did in this life and what we did in that life and so on. And now we come to this life, like in the song, like in the poem. Everything's there. Everything's there. And we'll look at that in a second in the formal structures. And so there's an awakening to a vision of how it could be, how you could be, how I could be. So different from this life where we are struggling to maintain ourselves, to find some happiness out there from this person, this situation, things, where we live, how we live, what work we do. It's a struggle. It's samsara. It never works. But somehow there's a vision of a totally different mind and a totally different life, where we go the way one day we're all going to go. So either we're going to put that off for another few lifetimes, another 100 lifetimes, or this time round, we are setting out once and for all. And like with railway lines, when you get the points, you can either go this way or you can go that way. And bit by bit, the choice you made takes the two further and further apart. So our awakening of bodhicitta is the most wonderful and subtle and precious thing, delicate thing, vulnerable thing. And so we're learning today about what it is, how to nurture it, how to make it stronger, and so on and so on. How wonderful that is. And how in the texts, sometimes we think of Buddhas as pretty cool. They're not sort of passionate and kind of, wow, man, yeah, and then disappointed over this. But, really and truly, Buddhas can be happy. They can be happy when somebody starts to break free. And I saw this with the 16th Karmapa, who was like living Buddha. It brings joy to them when somebody authentically is launching themselves on the path. So anyway, I don't want to say any more. Bodhicitta is a most amazing awakening of the heart. So before we go into the teachings on Aspiration Bodhicitta and remembering all the things that we had in the last couple of weeks, the overview of all of bodhicitta, which you'll remember was ultimate bodhicitta and relative bodhicitta, and then in relative bodhicitta, aspiration and practice. So now we're looking at the aspiration. So what are the causes for this awakening to happen? Depending which of the great Mahayana sources we go to, it varies a tiny bit, not that much. The four main causes, it's like chemistry. You put four things together and then it makes this. Or like cooking, you put four things together. What's needed for our bodhicitta to awaken? The first one is the very fact of our Buddha nature, that we all have that potential. All of us. It's the same for all of us. We all have it. So that doesn't change. It's always there. The possibility of awakening. And then why might yours awaken in this lifetime or mine? Secondly, because of our past karma. We've been there before. And then depending what we did in past lives, we either made a huge imprint in our own consciousness, stream of consciousness that comes back in this life. And it can come back very powerfully, it can come back less powerfully, and it can come back as still there, but flickering in the background, let's say. So past punya, at the end of last week's talk, we talked about punya, the power which gives us the ability. So that's the second thing, Buddha nature, and then second thing, or the impetus from the past lives. The third thing comes from outside us, and it's the inspiration, the incitation of our teachers, encouragement, saying, you can do this, you could do this, and laying before us the possibility, the teachings, the taking of the vow, and so on and so on, setting an example for us. So the present incitation from the outside. And then the fourth thing is our own practice. The more we practice, the more we nourish this awakening of our universal potential that we have from past lives and that we're being told about from the outside. We nourish it through practice. Now, this is very, very important because that's where we can do something. We can't go back and change our past lives. Buddha nature is Buddha nature. The incitation, the encouragement we're getting from the outside will be there sometimes. But what we can really do to nourish this awakening of bodhicitta is through our own practice. And then if we go into teachings from another tradition where it unpacks a bit more, what are we actually doing in our practice? Then there are two qualities that we are, I hope, developing. One is real compassion, so that we have more and more heartfelt compassion for our fellow beings, awareness of their suffering, longing to help them out of suffering. And so compassion is one, and then courage is the other. It's like in the song, those lines, the journey might be long, and sometimes we might find ourselves with tears in our eyes and with difficulty and so on. We're human. We're human. We are who we are. So this is what might cause it to awaken. And then what is it that awakens? And as we saw before, what is it that distinguishes a bodhisattva from a really good human being? Because they're not the same. A bodhisattva is definitely a good human being, but a good human being is not necessarily a bodhisattva. Oh, that's logic. You can't be a bodhisattva without being a good human being. But you can be a good human being without being a bodhisattva. So what's the difference is the commitment. That's it. It's what you're committed to. And it's not a lip commitment. It is, I suppose what you say is a heartfelt commitment. Heartfelt. I saw a story once on YouTube of a place I passed on a bus. It's near Bodh Gaya. Yeah, sort of. Anyway, it's in India, and it's near that sacred area of Bodh Gaya. And it was a man whose wife was ill, and the nearest medical help was over some hills, and so he had to drive a long way around the hills. And by the time he got his wife to the small hospital, she was dead. Poor man. And so he could see that for people in his village and in the area, they all had this same problem, a long way to get to hospital. And he could see the mountain that was in between. And he decided that he tried first of all to get the local authorities to build a road. They said, no way. And so for something like 30 years, he gave up everything. He got simple sponsorship to stay alive. People fed him. And with his own pickaxe and his own shovel, he made a road over the hill. And then once he dug it all out and it was nearly done, then the local council came along and they said, okay, we'll service it. It was a bit late in the day. It's a beautiful story. But think of that man's commitment. That's heartfelt commitment. If it takes me my whole life, I'm going to do this. And everything else fades to the sides. This is bodhicitta. This is what is awakening, and this is what we want to nurture. And depending on your past karma, we can really need to nurture it. Sometimes it's like in the old days, they used to light fires with a spark and a little bit of cotton wool. And I remember when I first went to Dharamsala in 1970 and Tibetan refugees were coming over the hill, they all had these tiny little leather pouches with a metal edge and a flintstone inside for lighting fires. It's how they did it. And inside the pouch, you got a bit of dry cotton wool. And so you strike the flint like this till you got a spark onto your cotton wool, and then you need to blow on it and blow on it and blow on it until it's smoldering, and then it's a flame. Then you need to put that with your kindling, and you're still like this. Sometimes you need to start again, but eventually the fire blazes. So our commitment to everything that we saw bodhicitta means. I'm going to reach enlightenment because it's the best thing for me. It's called own fulfillment, and it's the best thing for everybody. That's the commitment. Enlightenment to help everyone. Everyone includes you. It's not enlightenment to help everyone except me. And there's no need to make too big a deal of best for me, best for everybody. That commitment is what Aspiration Bodhicitta is, and we're going to nurture it and make it better and better. So when we look at what we're doing, we have to learn how not to break that commitment. First of all, how to take it, and then how not to break it, how to not let it degrade, because life and karma and samsara is so powerful, the habits. We get distracted, and before we know it, what was at the time an inspiration where we thought from now on, everything's sorted. This is who I'm going to be. This is what I'm going to do. I'm a bodhisattva now. And then bit by bit, life creeps in. Before you know it, 2 or 3 years have gone by and time's gone. So how not to let it degrade, how to make it stronger, how to make it greater in what it covers. It's like in volume. And then how not to forget it. And then if something goes wrong and we lose our commitment, which is a vow, which is a promise, then we need to know how to fix it, how to restore it, and to get back on stream. So that's what we're looking at this morning, briefly, all those things. But it's all about aspiration bodhicitta. So with our 2 types of bodhicitta, relative bodhicitta, aspiration and practice, we have a commitment to our own mind. Aspiration is about our own mind, attitude, and changing it, changing the mind. With the commitment to practice, then we include body and speech, because that's where we interact with other beings and the world. And there, it's a commitment that from now on, I will never act in this harmful way, and I'll do my best to act in this helpful way. And it's more than doing one's best, it's an actual promise not to do the harmful things and to do the helpful things. So the practice commitment is very serious. It's a very serious promise we make to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This aspiration commitment is like the novice training for the practice. So it's all to do with one's mind, only to do with one's mind. We are taking a promise, a commitment about the way we're going to think and use our mind and our feelings and everything that is our mind, our memories, our hopes, everything. How we're committing ourselves to how we're going to work with that. That's the commitment of aspiration bodhicitta. But implicit to it, and many people don't get this, is that even though we've not taken a promise to act with body and speech in the way that a full bodhisattva does, we're going from day one of aspiration to do our best to live like that. We're training, we're novices. We're novice real bodhisattvas, but we've not taken the commitment. I hope that's clear. Now, how we take the commitment is through the Bodhisattva vow ceremony. And once you've taken the ceremony, officially, you're a bodhisattva. So, but you don't need a t-shirt, and you don't need a badge, and you don't need to go around telling everybody, because you might be a bit embarrassed a few years down the line about how proud you were to be a bodhisattva and what a disgrace to the bodhisattva community you actually were. So, but it says there are two ways of understanding the word bodhisattva. Technically, you are a bodhisattva once you've made the commitment, once you've taken the vow. But then it's only when you're out of samsaric rebirth, out of it, and you reach the first bodhisattva level, that you are truly a bodhisattva. Because then you become a refuge. And the day after we've taken the vow, we're not really a refuge for other beings quite yet. So we need to, that's what it says in the scriptures. There are two ways of understanding the word bodhisattva. So there is a ceremony for taking the vow, and there are a lot of details about that. And we have two traditions. In the Shantideva tradition, then we take the aspiration and the practice vow together. And in the Maitreya and Dhammakirti tradition, then we take them separately. My own teacher, Akon Rinpoche, would only give them separately because he didn't think most people were ready yet for the practice commitment. It's very deep. It really is solemn. You know, you've got on the plane. There's no going back. So we've looked at why the bodhisattva mind might awaken through those four causes, and that we need to take it through a ceremony, which we don't have time to go into today. But the ceremony involves, in brief, 3 parts. We need to be prepared if we take it properly. So there's a preparation. Normally this involves the teacher making sure we've understood what bodhicitta means, the sort of teachings I'm giving you today and over the last couple of weeks. And then in that preparation, the teacher explains each of the steps of what we call the 7-part practice. Although in fact we only do 6 of them, because when we go deeper into the technicalities of the bodhisattva vow, the commitment, you can't take it unless you've already taken refuge. So when we do the 7-part, the 7 branches they're called of practice, the first one is refuge and prostration. So you have to have taken refuge to take the bodhisattva vow. It's like you need to have a foundation for a house in order to build the walls. So in the preparation for the vow, we will do the other things. We will learn to have respect, and we do that through praising all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We need to shed the load of our past negative karma. So the teacher tells us about purification practices and how we can shed the burden of the past karma we carry. And then we need to learn to have a positive attitude towards other beings and to what's called rejoice in their virtue. And we need to request the Buddhas to teach, helps us overcome our own arrogance and realize the need we have for teachings, and to request Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to remain in this world. And then lastly, we need to learn about dedication. So after the preparation, then there's the actual Bodhisattva vow, where we take a promise that from now until we reach enlightenment, we take refuge in all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the Dharma, Sangha, and that we will strive as best we can to reach enlightenment for all beings. We say that 3 times after the teacher. Then the third part, the preparation, taking the vow. And the third part is a conclusion, whereby we reflect on what we've just done and we feel really happy about it. Really, really happy. And I remember when it's part of, teachings on karma. Whatever we do, good or bad, if you feel really good about it afterwards, it makes the karma stronger. And if you regret it afterwards, it makes the karma weaker. So we've done something really positive when we take the bodhisattva vow. And it's good that we spend time thinking, wow, oh, that was good. That was so, so good. And I remember the 16th Karmapa, when he gave the bodhisattva vow, would sometimes come down from his teaching throne, walk amongst us, give us a blessing with a hand on the head. And he was so radiant. And he had some English words, and he would go, happy, happy, happy. And he'd come up to you and give you a blessing, say happy. And he was just so like the sun that you say, yeah, oh, I'm so happy. Yes. So skillful, and yet so natural. So we take the vow. So now you're a bodhisattva. You've been awakened. You've taken the vow. You have the commitment. So what are the 5 teachings that go with this? And then afterwards we'd have something else. It's not in the list, so it's not number 6. The one that's something else is how to fix it if you mess up. So let's look at the 5 key teachings about aspiration bodhicitta that Gampopa gives us. The first one is how not to lose it. We're talking about a state of mind, your loving care for all beings, whereby you want to become Buddha, to help them all. So how can we destroy that mind? Please don't, but what might do it? And it will be this. It said it would be to exclude another being from your compassionate wishes. And it says, does that mean to exclude many? Does that mean even one? And it says, yes, even one. If your basic attitude is, I want everyone to become enlightened, except Arnold next door, because he's a real like that. And I wouldn't. And it says the definition is this: if in your attitude, your feeling towards that person is, even if I could help you, I wouldn't. If they were sinking in a quicksand, like in some movie, and you think, oh no, you're a nasty human being, you've hurt so many people. It'd be better if you just actually, and you died. You've lost your bodhicitta. You've lost it. To exclude even one being. So then Gampopa unpacks this. I don't think we need go into the details today. But he said even if you look at the most beings that are predators, raptors, they all love somebody, their own children, their own partners, even if they're out there ripping other beings apart, as part of their daily life. And so that's how we lose it. So then we're talking about our commitment to train our mind. So this means being very mindful of our attitude for each person, for each sentient being we meet. And we had a question, I think it was last week, about concerning this. Some of these obviously very evil human beings today in our history. And how do we feel about them as bodhisattvas? And how do we feel about them is, well, it's very interesting. What is it? It is for ourselves the only way that we are going to become Buddhas. To feel about them the only way that we can feel about them if we are going to become Buddhas, which is with love and compassion. That's for our own benefit, wherever we go, whoever we meet, who we are, and what makes our own heart at peace is that we have nothing but love and compassion for each and every being. This is our own healing. This is the only way that our mind will settle and settle and settle into our heart chakra and become Buddha. There's no exception to that. If you want to care for your own, all of your futures, we have to do that for our own benefit. We become nothing but love. But then not only that, our own benefit becomes benefit for others, because as we develop in Dharma, we realize the enormity of karma. And that whoever's a nasty person now hasn't always been like that, won't always be like that. So how can we help? So the loving mind for that person is thinking, what can help that person? More generally, what can help society that makes people like that? What are the roots of that person's aggressivity, that person's greed, and so on? How can these illnesses be tackled? We're like a doctor, looking at illness and finding how to cure it, with a view to making that evil person a good person, helping them find the truth within themselves and repair all the damage they've done. I was mentioning this to a friend the other day. I have a friend in South Africa who, like many of us do at one point in her life, recycled herself into peace and reconciliation work. And it's just amazing to see this work in communities where people hate each other, and villages or people within villages are in conflict, which hurts everybody. And seeing how you can go in there and deal with the aggression and hostility in a positive way, and in the end, at least enable people to live in harmony, even if they can't live better than that. So the Bodhisattva's attitude, positive, wise, knowing about karma and the causes behind what's going on, can be nothing but love and compassion. So we need to check our own thoughts and how we would tend to push some people out, or it may not be that extreme, but that flavor of feeling as even if I could help you, no, I don't want to. I wouldn't want to. It's the opposite. If ever we find we are put off by somebody and we really don't have our bodhisattva mind, it's easy for friends, the ones you love so much, you care for so much, and whose lives you're exposed to want them to become Buddha is easy because you already love them. You already love them. You can feel the possibility. So when we feel an excluding mind, this is where we need to go to work on ourselves. And what do we realize? Our own mind. Our own mind, which could be Buddha and is in turmoil and is in rejection. It's not at peace. It's not how it could be. It's not how it should be as a bodhisattva. So we welcome these uncomfortable feelings of those who make us feel uncomfortable, because this is the raw material of vital, precious work. So never to exclude anybody. There's a great saying from a sutra with what would it have been in Sanskrit? Anavatapta Naga Paripricha Sutra, I think. It means the sutra requested by the Naga king, Anavatapta. Anavatapta was one of the non-human beings Buddha taught, and Buddha told him this. Those who are hurt by others, in return for the goodness they've shown others, but they're hurt by them. Yet despite this, still act beneficially towards them, are the finest humans in this world. Those who can return good for bad. That's what Buddha taught this Naga king. So let's leave that there. There's a lot to think about. But the point is, you lose your bodhisattva vow, your commitment, if you have that mentality of excluding anyone. Second of our 5 points, that was the first one, was about how not to lose it. The second is how not to let it degrade. And so we're advised to learn more and more about the bodhisattva mind, about bodhisattvas. So we read, we study, we read inspiring stories of bodhisattvas and what they did. There is one sutra, it's called the Gandhavyuha Sutra. Gandhavyuha is part of an enormous sutra called the Avatamsaka Sutra. And that's been translated into English from the Chinese. It's very readable. I've been told it's maybe not the best translation, but it's the only one you can get. And it's a huge work by Thomas Cleary. It's called the Flower Ornament Scripture. And in there, you've got lots about, it's funny reading. It's not about this world. It's about worlds of light and bodhisattvas and what goes on in those purer places. So it's a bit like fairy stories in some ways. But when you've read those sutras, you come back and something is glowing inside you. You can get quite a few of them in English these days. Golden Light Sutra, Lotus Sutra, Avatamsaka Sutra. So in there, in the Gandhavyuha, then we get 230 examples of bodhicitta that show us what this bodhisattva mind, this dedication, from now on, everything's changed. From now on, all I'm going to do is nurture this heart until I'm Buddha awakened, pure, to help everyone. So we see its qualities, it's like a seed. How a tiny seed can grow into such a beautiful and magnificent, huge plant, bearing fruits that feed many, many people. So we see that this bodhicitta that we're nurturing can be like a seed. We see this loving heart and care for everybody. It's like a weapon because it will overcome evil, negativity that can, in the past, could grab us by the foot and pull us down. Harmful tendencies, negative forces in the world. So it's like a weapon. So like this, we get sets of examples. It shows how it protects us. It says it's like a shelter on a mountainside, like a refuge, mountain refuge. When the place is dangerous, the weather's dangerous. Our loving heart is a place of refuge. We can go in. I don't know if you've ever been in a mountain refuge. There you can people leave wood, you can light a fire, you can sleep for the night. It's usually a rough bench, but you're not outdoors. And then the storm's gone and you can carry on the next day and make yourself a bit of food. It's a place of restoration and so on, 230. So if we don't do that, we make a point of learning more or reading regularly about bodhisattvas to keep us inspired, because this fights the power of habit that would make us forget our bodhicitta. So that's how we don't let it degrade. Number 2. Number 3 is, how do we strengthen our bodhicitta? Now this is a huge topic. It says we do it through the 2 accumulations, which I hope you've come across, because it's an enormous topic and I can't do it justice in a few words. But accumulations, gatherings, it means what you gather to yourself. And like in our home, the stuff we've gathered to ourselves, the furniture, the tools you've got in your workshop, the things, treasures you can show your visitors and so on. This idea of what you gather to yourself, and which becomes your richness to share with others. So we have 2 of those accumulations. One of them we touched on last week, punya, often called merit or virtue, which is our strength through all of our past karma. It gives us the resources, it gives us the power to do things. And you can't fake that overnight. It builds up, and with the great beings we meet, the real bodhisattvas in this world, they've had lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of doing such excellent things that they have a certain power, resources they can draw on. So that's punya. So we do our best in this life to do all the good, kind things. But beside this, on a relative level, the good energy, the good karma that we carry with us on a relative level, then on an absolute level, the second accumulation is wisdom. Wisdom about the truth of reality, shunyata, voidness, emptiness, and how everything is interdependent. So we need to work on those. A lot of work to do. You can never be good enough, do enough kind, good things. And for the wisdom, it's not like there's more and more knowledge to read about and assimilate. We need to go deeper and deeper into the meanings of voidness, taking the layers off the onion. So the 2 accumulations strengthen. Now, this is number 3 is about strengthening. Something's there, your bodhicitta. It's like that, the fire that we're getting going. So we're making that a strong flame. Number 4 is about expanding our bodhicitta. Now, this is very practical. It means more and more moments of each day are bodhicitta moments. So it's not just when we went to a wonderful teaching once upon a time in Samiling or in India, and we heard a bodhisattva, and we felt really inspired. And so then our bodhicitta was alive, and we had the vision of many lifetimes to come, and you, the Buddha, Buddha Ken, and Buddha, each and every one of you, sometime then. First, we have to believe that's possible. A lot of people don't like themselves very much, and they can't even imagine that could be the case. First, we have to wrap our head around that. You are going to be Buddha. You really are. Just a question of how long and how much we put it off to get involved in more nonsense and have another detour for a life or 10 lives. And how seriously we're going to apply ourselves to it. But you're going to become Buddha. And on the way, you're going to become a refuge for other beings, a kind friend for more and more. It's a wonderful prospect. So then at the beginning, this awakening to the vision of where we're going, what we can be, what we ought to be, what will help everybody is rare. And when we make it expand, it means more and more moments of our day are brought to life by that inspiration of the bodhisattva mind. So there are, depending on the scriptures we turn to, one says there are 3 areas to work on here. One is working on the causes of this bodhisattva mind, bodhicitta. And the causes are love and compassion. Now we have very clear meditation techniques for developing love, loving kindness, and developing compassion. And I think if I ask myself, and I'm sure if you ask yourself, have I done love? Am I 100% fully loving? Have I cracked all of the secrets of love? Even if I tried, I couldn't be more loving than I am. Is the answer yes? I can't say yes to that. I'm a real beginner in loving care. So we definitely have more work to do. So what are you going to do? You're just going to wish for it? Oh, I wish I was more loving, and leave it at that. We need to practice loving kindness meditation. It's very clear how you do it. You find real love for somebody you can really love. In the past, Tibetans thought of their mother, but it doesn't matter. Somebody you can really love. And you sit there and you work with those thoughts until your heart starts getting warm and melted. And you think, gosh, if I could only help you. We feel gratitude to somebody. And we think, I just so love to help you along your path to enlightenment, to support you, to help you. So once we've got that going for somebody where we can really make it happen, you keep that alive, and then you pick somebody that you don't quite care for so much, but you can still care for, and you try and love them as much. And gradually we expand it. And then we start including the difficult people, the ones who've hurt us, and so on, until that real feeling of love is truly there for all of them. So there's a meditation technique. The same for compassion. There's our technique, and we need to actually sit on our cushions and do those, because they are the causes of bodhicitta. Through loving compassion for all beings, we really will long to become Buddha, because that's the best way we can help them. So 3 things. First, working on the causes of bodhicitta. And then second, expanding the bodhicitta itself. So bringing it into more moments of the day, but at least, it says, at least, and this is something I try to encourage my own students to do, at least 6 times a day. You stop and you remember your bodhisattva commitment with a small prayer, usually. Sonje chadon, soji chonamla, jancho bado dani chamsunje, dagi jinso jipe sonamji, drola penchera, sonje droparasho. We try and do that 3 times, 6 times a day. So it's in the 6, what they call the 6 watches, or the 6 periods of the day. And so this is before people had watches and clocks. It means the 6 main moods of the day. First thing in the morning, and then midday, early afternoon, late afternoon, evening, night. So it's the 6 moods of the day which anybody can feel. And you think, I'm not going to let one of these periods of the day go by without I've stopped. And then, even if it's just for a minute, but a wonderful minute of total focus where we remember our bodhisattva mind. And of course, more than 6 is very, very helpful. What we're aiming for is that we don't lose the bodhisattva vision through the day at all. So we have a lot of expanding work to do. So we're in 3 things: nurturing the cause, loving kindness and compassion, nurturing the bodhisattva wish itself by doing it more and more times a day. And then third, we need to reflect a lot examine ourselves and examine what we're doing every day, day after day. And we have two areas to cultivate. The one is service to others, and the other is purification of ourselves. Service to others, purification of ourselves. So the first one is to examine all our resources, who we are, how we live, who we meet, how we're handling it, and then also our material resources, and think, how would these be better used in service to everybody? So all the time we're trying to think, how can I serve? How can I serve more? How can I serve better? And so that's the work for other people. And then in ourselves, we are examining our mind and trying to see how to make it purer, how to get rid of what is dangerous and harmful, what is procrastination, what is time wasting, amusement, all the interesting stuff we don't need to get involved with that tickles our intellectual curiosity. I hate the word interesting. When I hear people say, oh, I heard something interesting the other day, I usually replace it with time wasting in my mind when I hear people say it. And there's one bit in the Tibetan language, which is how you ask, what are you doing today? It more or less translates literally as, how are you wasting your time today? and so that's it. But anyway, we examine this mind, this bodhicitta commitment is about your mind, your heart. What's it up to? What's it up to? So we want to make it purer and purer. And of course, we have lots of Buddha's teachings, our own guru's teachings for how to do that. Some formal practices like Vajrasattva, but also just a lot of common sense, watching our own thoughts, seeing our own feelings, seeing how we waste our time, or sometimes worse than that, misuse our time in stuff that's perhaps more harmful than helpful. So that's the training, that third one, nourish the causes, love and compassion. Go to bodhicitta mind as many times as you can in the day. And then those two things, service to others, purification of your mind. Those last ones are very much part of this training for when you take the practice commitment vow. So anyway, that's how to strengthen. We've had how not to lose the bodhisattva mind, how not to let it degrade, how to make its essence more powerful, and how to expand it into more and more mind moments. So then number 5, it's called how not to forget. How not to forget. It's very similar to the first ones, not to lose it, not to let it degrade. But here we get 4 teachings. Sorry for all the numbers, but it's the way we remember them, and it makes it very, very clear. So there are what are called 4 dark actions and 4 bright actions. We avoid the 4 dark actions, the 4 harmful actions, and we practice their opposites, which are the 4 bright actions. These 4 dark actions will gradually eat away our bodhicitta and take us to a place where this noble bodhisattva mind is gone. So that first action is to deceive or to try to deceive your Dharma teacher. The Dharma teacher, it doesn't mean a guru in the Vajrayana sense. Of course, they're included, but it means anyone we're turning to for Dharma advice, and to try to mislead them because you're being forced. Now, this is hard. We are human beings. We've got pride. And it's very easy. I remember, I feel so ashamed talking about this, because when I think of my own Dharma history, and so privileged to have been able to go and see Akon Rinpoche pretty much whenever I wanted over decades. Whereas some people, they only got minutes with him. But going in there, it's very easy to say, oh yes, I'm doing this, and in my practice I had this experience, and now I've done however many million prostrations it is, and all of this. But what you're not telling is the dirty work your mind and your activity was getting up to, because you're ashamed of it. And that's really where you need the help. And you dissimulate. You cover up. You don't want to talk about it. You present a nice face. You present a nice face. Or you actually lie. So if there is this tendency, that is going to take away your bodhicitta, because your Dharma teachers are the key to you becoming Buddha, to you evolving along the Dharma path. And honesty with them, no matter how embarrassing it is vital. Vital. And so it says, whether they were actually deceived or not, doesn't matter. I mean, probably they weren't ever deceived in the first place. They see through you, like you see through a window. And they're just waiting for the day when you can understand better. But it says whether they were deceived or not doesn't matter. It's about you and the fact that you are covering up. So the opposite to that, the bright action, is to be as honest and as frank and to the point as you can when you're in dialogue with your Dharma teachers, and asking for help where you need the help most. The second thing that can make us forget our bodhicitta is to make somebody, or want to make, or try to make somebody regret a good action. Want to make somebody regret a good action. So if somebody comes and tell you, oh, I just gave all my money away to Lama What's-His-Face. And you think, oh, but how are you going to live? How are you going to feed yourself? And I'm not sure he's going to use it for the best. It might have been better if you gave it to Lama What's-His-Name rather than Lama What's-His-Face. All sorts of things where we can say, or, wouldn't it have been better if you're going to give everything away? Give it to the local dog shelter or whatever. Anything that makes them have second thoughts and regrets about their good action. If you want to put them off what they've done, and they've already done it in these teachings, but we can extend that to if they tell you they're thinking of doing something anyway. It says whether they actually do regret or not isn't the point here. It's the fact that you said something and you thought something and your intention was to make them think twice, regret. Because as we heard earlier, when we do karma, good or bad, how we feel about it afterwards directly affects the power of the karma. So when we feel good about something, it makes the karma, it's called in the text, established, planted, activated. And the more we feel good about it, even if it was a tiny good karma, we can feel so good about it that it becomes a big good karma. That's skillful use of mind. So regret diminishes the power of karma. As a bodhisattva, we want to encourage other people to good karma, to virtue, a vital tool in their own journey to enlightenment. And even if they starve to death as a result of it, they get another body. but they don't get another mind. So if we've helped their mind experience a moment of total giving, that very special feeling when you let go and you offer and you give up, the power of that will last them for lifetimes and lifetimes. And it's only money, gosh, or whatever it was. So anyway, that's the way we can forget. Second thing, make somebody regret a good action. So the bright action, the opposite, is to encourage virtue and to be supportive of every virtuous action people can do. The third way we can forget our bodhisattva mind is through criticizing another bodhisattva. Now, this one's a hot potato. These days, there are a lot of Buddhist controversies. There's a lot of gossip. And I think people have discovered after 50 years of Tibetan Buddhism now that it's not quite so squeaky clean as it seemed in the first place, and that it's organized religion, and there's a lot that goes on that we find in all other organized religions. And so it's not the fairy tale. In some ways, people thought it was. On the other hand, the fairy tale part's still very much there, if you can find it. So it's a hot potato, but the teachings are very clear, because we are nourishing our own heart and mind. It's as simple as that. What poisons our own heart and mind are negative, harmful, critical thoughts where we see what's wrong out there. That goes very, 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 very deep. And it's very hard to understand that actually out there, everything's always been pure. But to help us towards that understanding and towards ultimate bodhicitta understanding, we train ourselves to only see the good. When it's not just like today's teaching, but I have people on retreat and we're working more on this, then I say, because people say, whoa, just a moment, you want to take away all my human common sense. You don't want me to see all the things that are going wrong, in Tibetan Buddhism, in this Dharma center, in that Dharma center, and with that organization, and Rinpoche, what's his name, and so on. You want me to lose my common sense and go into some airy-fairy, everything's good kind of reality. What I recommend is, well, just give yourself an experiment. Promise yourself that for 1 month, you're not going to think or say anything bad about anybody. After 1 month, you can come back. You can come back. You can do whatever you want, say whatever you want, but just give it a try. Now, not many people actually do that. They understand the idea, but very few people actually do. Some have. And what they do find is they change. And they start to hear the power of gossip and negative talk, because they've stopped doing it, but people around them, they're all, oh, have you heard about so-and-so? Yeah, no, really? Oh, gosh, that's disappointing. And I thought, all that kind of gossip. They hear it, and because they're committed not to doing it, they feel the energy that goes with it. And they start to realize that we are bodhisattvas. We're looking at everyone from hundreds of past lives as our dearest friend, and in future as Buddhas. And how can we help those old friends and parents become the Buddhas they really ought to be? Is by nurturing the good in them and making the good the medicine for the bad. We just need to help them be good and positive. And then they can help themselves deal with their own bad karma. So anyway, there's lots of sense behind it. The discipline is simple. It's a dark thing that makes us forget our bodhicitta, to either say good. Now it says either directly to their face, where you're actually telling them, or to say it to third parties where you're spreading rumors about them. That's a dark action, and the opposite, the bright action, is to only speak good. And sometimes if we're not being too smart, too much of a smart ass, when people are bad-mouthing somebody, a fellow bodhisattva, another person in the Dharma center, then we can kindly, or when the time's right, we can just point out the good things they are, nice things they've done. Because we are all damaged. We are all imperfect. It's like in Christianity, that who's going to throw the first stone? We're all such beginners. We all have so much wrong with us. And the idea is, as Sangha, we help and support each other to be good and positive. And then the rest sorts itself out. If we dwell on the negative, we feed what harms throughout the world around us. You can see it everywhere. Hostility, blame. So anyway, that's the third dark action, and its opposite. And the fourth one is like the first one. The first one, you remember, was to try and deceive your teacher, Dharma teacher. The fourth one is to try and deceive anybody. Because the bodhisattva mind is a non-deceitful mind. So it says whether they're actually deceived or not doesn't matter. It's about you being complicated, presenting a face that's not you, using others, using language for your own advantage, which is why we do that. When we come to the Buddha's teachings on right conduct, Sila, they're enormous. Milarepa sums them up into one sentence. He said, if you want to practice the paramita of right conduct, then all you need to do is be straightforward. Nothing twisted, no other agenda behind the scenes. What you see is what you get. WYSIWYG mind. So to try and deceive anybody is what makes us forget our bodhicitta. And then to be honest, now wisely honest. Going around telling the truth can cause a lot of damage, or what seems to be to you to be the truth about anything or about people. But we don't try to deceive anybody. We try to be authentic, honest, truthful, where that's helpful, or if not, shut up, which is often excellent advice. Silence is a wonderful thing, can be. So we have the four dark actions which make us forget bodhicitta, the four bright actions which strengthen our bodhicitta and remedy the dark actions. So we've seen there 5 things: how not to break our bodhisattva commitment, this mentality, how not to let it degrade, how to make it stronger, how to expand it, and then how not to forget it is the word. Now, actually, this word forget, this last one, number 5, is the same word, or the opposite of the word for mindful. So it means how to be mindful of your bodhicitta and how not to be unmindful of it. So now we come to a last point, and our time's run out, which is if you do break your bodhisattva vow, your aspiration vow, we just heard how, then is that it? Have you blown it? And it says no. We can restore it simply by taking it again. Now, we mustn't take this too lightly. Doesn't mean that if you've really done something non-bodhisattva, that we can just say the little prayer, and that's it, fixed. Bodhisattva mind is a mentality, the inspiration. Your heart's aglow. You just long to get rid of suffering. You feel such compassionate care for everyone. You long to have a pure mind, a wise mind, clear mind of Buddha to help everybody. So if you lost that, we need to get ourselves back into that state of inspiration and committing, promising all the rest of this life and every life afterwards until you reach the heart of enlightenment to become Buddha. And when we get back into that clear vision, then we have restored the vow that we have broken. Now, what I didn't say at the beginning is a bit relevant these days with COVID and everything, is normally when the time's right, we want to become a bodhisattva, we go to a preceptor, a living bodhisattva, and we take the vow through the ceremony. With the bodhisattva vow, it is possible to take it without a preceptor before images of the three refuges, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, through the same ceremony. And so that's quite hopeful, because I do know quite a few people who feel they're getting ready to take the bodhisattva vow, and they say, but where can I go? Who can I go to receive it these days? So that it is possible to receive it without a teacher, and then 1 or 2 lamas do give it online at present. Just thought I'd mention that. So now let's dedicate this morning's teaching. We scratch the surface again and again, but that's what these Saturdays are about, with surface scratches and tickling your curiosity. But whatever was good and useful, then let's please dedicate to all our fellow beings, and in particular in our little Sangha here, our Saturday morning community, that all of us can find the bodhisattva way and move along it successfully, beautifully. Sonam die tamche zikpane, topne nyebe dranam pamchene, jega nachi pala trukpaye, sipetsole, drowa drolwara sho. Janchub semcho rinpoche, maje panam jejoche, jepan nyampa me patang, kongne, kongdu, perwara sho. Thank you, everybody, very much. So now we've got 10-15 minutes